else wanting to can join us as we go along. Everybody hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Okay, so welcome to tonight's Cumbernauld Community Board meeting. Just a little reminder, there are a couple of new faces, so welcome to those new faces and thanks for joining us. Just a reminder that if anyone wants to speak, if they raise their hand through the reactions bar at the bottom, then we will try our very hardest to make sure we get everybody in that needs to get in. Do we have any apologies?
Or Tom Fisher, Suzanne.
Thank you.
Chair, we've also had apologies from David Maguire and Jim Glennie.
Great stuff, thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Again, just another reminder that if you're not speaking, if you could pop yourself on mute, that would be really helpful. Okay, we have the minutes of the previous meeting and matters arising. That was the 26th of May meeting. Doesn't really seem that that long ago, but anyway. So any, first of all, can we take that as an accurate record?
I'll propose.
Who was that, sorry? The Alex?
Clark.
Thank you, Alex. Who a seconder?
I'll second them, Suzanne.
Thanks, Billy. Okay, I've had a quick look through and I think any matters arising are on the agenda for tonight. Has anyone got anything that they wanted to raise in particular that's not on the agenda?
I don't know, I've not got an agenda, Suzanne, but I'd like to raise about the Campsie funding.
Okay, yeah, we've got that on the agenda at item number 12, Billy, so we'll come back to that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And Suzanne, I can't mute because I'm frightened to touch it in case I blank out.
That's fine, as long as you don't make any loud noises or anything, then that's okay.
You know I'm not like that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else get any other matters arising? No. Okay, I think we'll just take that then, that we can move on. Yep. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the response regarding the internet dead spots, which was received from Lynn Gow. I know that that's been circulated to everyone. Has everybody had the chance to have a look at that? And does anybody want to make comment? I think Lynn's with us tonight. Lynn, is there anything that you would want to add?
No, I don't think I want to add anything else, Chair. I think everything's in the response.
Thank you, that's great. Thank you. Any comment on it then? We're just happy to accept. Okay, thank you for that.
Sorry, Suzanne, I'm kind of late to the, I stuck my name in, but I was kind of late there.
Oh, sorry, Claire.
Not at all. Just to say, this is brilliant that this is moving forward in this direction, because there's so many of us have got kind of areas within our wards that are spots that they can't get Wi-Fi, especially if you take it the back end of Aben Hill up towards Vannyside, up the Orange Road, up Vannyside Road, that whole area has got huge problems. So this is I've been kind of beaten about this constantly, and it's been listened to, but we're now moving to the next stage. So it's really good to see this. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Claire. Okay, anybody else? Okay. Okay, moving on to item number 4, and really that's just a reminder that I'll be chairing the meetings until December, and then the chair will be rotated to Alex Clark, who's the vice chair. But again, just to ask if there's anyone interested in moving forward and participating thereafter. So if anybody's interested in taking on a role, please indicate and let us know. Okay. Okay, so moving forward, we're on to general community board business and updates. Now, we've got an update from Gerard, the head of service. I'm not sure if Gerard's with us yet. I'm not seeing him on the list. So what we'll do is we'll move on to item number 6 and we'll come back if Gerard joins us at any point in time. So item number 6, Act Now Action on Climate Together, and that's Maddie Halliday from Vanel. Maddie, welcome to the meeting.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks.
So shall I just, I'm going to share my presentation. I had a little bit of a holiday before this meeting, so I hadn't shared it in advance, but it will be shared after the meeting with the minutes, if that's okay. And if you could let me know if you can see it, I'm just going to put it up now. 1 minute, sorry. I'm wondering actually if I can share, 1 minute, share screen. Application, share content. That should share. Right, it's, oh, I'm really sorry about this. It says I can't share. So Matt, can I send it to you by email and can you share it? I'm sorry about that. It's because I only got back from holiday at 4 this afternoon. So is that okay? Okay, I'll just send it to Matt. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, Matt, I've just sent it to you. You should get it any mo. Sorry about the delay.
That's fine, no problem.
Any luck, Matt? No. I knew that I should have emailed it to you earlier, but I was just tweaking it when I got back. That's my fault. Okay, let me just think what to do now. It should arrive maybe in a few minutes. Have you got any other items to go on to while Matt's waiting to get it, and we'll come back again?
Yeah, if you're okay with that, we can
Yes,
move
of
on
course
to the
I
next
am.
item.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you waiting. Matt, can you just message me in chat when you've got it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry,
Thanks.
folks.
That's no problem. Okay, so item number 7 then is delivering digital locally, and that's an update. And again, it's back to Lynn.
Yep, thanks very much, Chair. I don't have a presentation, you'll be all pleased to know, so no delay here. So anyway, good evening everyone, and thanks very much for allowing me to join the meeting tonight. Just to provide an update on driving digital locally, I think it says on the agenda, delivering digital locally. Anyway, my name's Lynn Gow and I'm the Communication and Engagement Lead for the Council's Digital NL programme. You may recall that one of my colleagues delivered a presentation to you all back in February, March on our digital plans. And through the Digital NL programme, the Council aims to provide an online anytime service which meets the needs of our communities. We want to truly understand what those needs are, and we've developed a Driving Digital Locally framework to progress these aims. And I just wanted to update the board tonight on where we're at with this engagement, because this forms a large part of my remit. I've been in this job for about 6 months now. So you will recall that our ask at the end of the previous presentation was offering volunteers the opportunity to join a digital subgroup. The purpose of that group is to maximise the use of digital services for our communities across North Lanarkshire and to drive effective collaboration and engagement within these communities to develop the Driving Digital Locally framework. Now, after that presentation in March, we received quite a few volunteers, which I was delighted about. So the group is made up of representatives from all 9 community board areas, and we meet on a monthly basis. The initial meeting took place on the 12th of August and was chaired by Councillor Duffy in his role as convener of Transformation and Digitisation Committee. A draft terms of reference has also been developed and it was approved at our Digital NL board back in June. It also presented the term of reference for approval at our first digital subgroup, and amendments have following feedback. Amendments have been made and will be resubmitted for approval at next month's meeting. A rolling chair and vice chair was also agreed for future meetings, and further discussion during the breakout sessions focused on supporting early action to achieve better understanding of digital inclusion amongst the 9 communities and across the Equalities Group, and looking at ongoing action to support local work linked to the LOIPs. Since the meeting, I've also carried out a mapping exercise to ensure that we've got the right representatives covering the areas in the group. I've agreed with our chair that we'll have 2 reps from each community board, and from the Cumbernauld area, apologies for that noise. From the Cumbernauld area, I've currently got 1 rep who is Alex Clark. Thank you very much, Alex. So the role of the members will be to act as an ambassador in their own area, and we'll keep this board updated on the work of this group as it progresses. Also just wanted to update you that we took part in a digital inclusion seminar hosted by the Digital North Lanarkshire Partnership, and it was hosted by our Chief Executive, Des Murray. It was an excellent seminar and it was aimed at those in the partnership and other organisations to explore how we can work together more effectively to increase digital inclusion in North Lanarkshire, and also to reaffirm the commitment to the Digital North Lanarkshire Partnership. We split the delegates into workshops to discuss key actions that we need to take to accelerate digital inclusion across North Lanarkshire. The final report isn't published yet, but early overarching themes to come out of it was increased knowledge of digital skills needs amongst communities, increased investment around infrastructure, and better collaboration amongst our partner organisation. And this is something that the Digital North Lanarkshire Partnership will be taking forward. I think something like this seminar could definitely be replicated at a community board level, and I think I'll definitely be discussing the merits of that at the digital subgroup. Also, I've started to do some early initial engagement with our 77 elected members as they are key also to our Driving Digital Locally framework. I've developed a survey to gain their feedback and their thoughts around digital inclusion, and their responses will also be fed into the framework as we move forward with it. And just finally, I just wanted to update you on a new project that I've been working on with the Council's service provider Agilisis. It's a project targeting older residents in retirement complexes to adopt technology to help with their loneliness and improve their overall happiness and well-being. This will be funded through Connecting Scotland, and I'm delighted to say that we've been very successful in gaining 200 devices in MiFi boxes for this project. At the moment, we have gone out to the retirement complexes and the residents in it, and we have already 100 residents interested. We're also looking to tie in our North Lanarkshire Council digital champions to support these elderly in our community, and also looking at our youth groups and through our schools to develop an intergenerational project, which I'm really, really excited about. So I think just to leave you tonight, I'm looking for 1 other representative to join the subgroup, and I'll put my email address in the chat bar, and I'd be delighted to hear from anybody that would like to join that subgroup, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. That's really good news. That sounds really interesting. Anybody get any questions?
Just a question about rolling out to the elderly people and that for Wi-Fi. Is there a financial cost to them by taking on the Wi-Fi?
No, no. So that's what the MiFi boxes are. That would be your Wi-Fi. Yes, no, this is all funded through Connecting Scotland, and we've made the application to it. No cost to them, no. So this is in retirement complexes.
Anybody else?
Hi there. Good evening. My name's Caroline Richardson. Just to introduce myself very quickly, sorry, I'm the Advocacy and Participation Manager with Who Cares Scotland. I work in North and South Lanarkshire, working with very vulnerable kids, young people that are looked after, young people with additional support needs, young people in kinship care. But I'm very proud to say that I live in Seafar, and I've lived in Seafar for 25 years. So Cumbernauld, there you go. The first thing I'd want to say is that as an organisation, our experience of digital availability for our young people in North Lanarkshire, I have to say, over COVID has been really difficult. You will appreciate that we support young people in formal processes, whether it be lack reviews, children's hearings, education meetings. And what we've found is that it's not just the young people that have suffered as a consequence of not having access to digital media, but actually their families have suffered as well. And over the last 18 months, our advocates have had very varying experiences of families and young people within Cumbernauld in the Greater North Lanarkshire area, not being able to really have a positive input into a lot of formal meetings and a lot of formal decisions about their care. So I think that this is an absolutely wonderful project. I think it's something that will really enhance a lot of our community across North Lanarkshire. And just to say that if you're looking for someone to help you with the group, I'd love to put my hand up, because I can really support you and give you lots of examples of not only just kind of issues, but a lot of positivity as well. So thank you.
Great. But Caroline, I'll be in touch. If you could maybe just pop your, even just pass your email address to, or I'll put my email address in the chat bar, and if you could just maybe contact me, that would be great.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Caroline, and welcome to the group. It's good to see your face here. Okay, anyone else then? Anything else on the subject? I'm not seeing any hands up. Oh,
Yes, could
okay.
I just come in for a minute? Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to also comment on, Lynn had mentioned the Connecting Scotland initiative, which, as you know, is supported by the Scottish Government, but also in North Lanarkshire, we're promoting a local initiative called Tech Share, which we tried to launch during COVID, but we couldn't do it because of restrictions of lockdown. So we're relaunching, where local people can gift unwanted devices that will be refurbed by LAMH Recycle, and then would be gifted to people locally who can't afford a device, or for whatever reason can't get a device. And Health and Social Care NL have also given us some money to buy some more free data access to MiFi boxes. So watch this space. Thanks.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. I know that during the pandemic at Cumbernauld Resilience, we had a couple of offers of stuff like that. So that's a really great idea, and hopefully we'll be able to support you with that.
Thank you.
Okay, Matt, did you manage to get that presentation yet? Not come through? No.
It hasn't arrived, Chair. Possibly it's the size of the presentation that Mary's maybe trying to send us isn't getting through, but that's...
I'm really sorry about this. I should have realised all the other boards that I'm presenting on, it's okay, because I'll send them to Christine or Matt. They've got it, they will get it. So Grant, I sent it to you in case it came through to you. Have you got it? I just can't share. I don't know why.
I'll check just now and see.
I'll try one more time. I'll have to talk without the presentation. It's just it doesn't want me to share it. I don't know why. Maybe because I've joined through my browser. Sorry, folks. Grant, did you get it?
Just checking just now.
Okay. The joys of remote working. I've not had this problem before. I think it's WebEx. I can normally share through other formats. So I'm really sorry. If I'd realised I'd have this tech problem, I would have sent the draft presentation, but I just wanted to tweak it this afternoon when I got back. Any luck, Grant? No? Okay. All right. So I'll just present without it. And would it be okay Matt, Christine, if after this meeting you could share the actual presentation, because it's got slides, but it's also got, if people read the notes in the slide, a lot of what I'm saying is actually in the notes. So you'll get what I'm saying and it'll make it easier for the minute as well. Okay, all right then. So what I wanted to do in this presentation is introduce two things really: a brief summary of the climate emergency, and also introduce Act Now. And some of you will remember that last autumn we did circulate a draft Act Now plan to all community boards and asked for comment. We didn't actually get that much comment back at the time. We also actively encouraged, supported by Matt and his colleagues, that action on the climate emergency at community level was referenced in the local outcome improvement plan. So there is a backdrop of involvement with community boards, but this presentation is intended to update you, and I'm making some suggestions about next steps, which it would be great to talk further with you today and after today, or this evening and after this evening. So that's the background to the presentation. What I wanted to briefly do is, many of you will already know about what climate change is and what it's caused by, but just in case some people don't know, I'm just going to do a brief summary of that. So we use the word climate change quite a lot. More recently, we use the word climate emergency, and I'll say a little bit about those two terms. So climate change refers to a long-term shift in average weather patterns across the world. So it's not about moderate or mild fluctuations, which obviously happen all the time, but sustained and quite considerable changes in weather patterns. So temperature, the amount of rain that we have, and so on. And the causes of climate change are due to warming of our atmosphere because of rising levels of carbon dioxide mostly, but there's some other gases such as methane that are emitted as a result of human activity. Now, in the past, in millions and millions of years ago, there have been other eras of climate change that obviously haven't been caused by human activity, either because we weren't here or here in small enough numbers that we didn't impact on the environment. But the current climate change process is a result of our activity. Since the start of the Industrial Revolution in the late 18th century, we've released increasingly large amounts of carbon dioxide into the Earth's atmosphere. And
I think we might have lost Maddie. Can anyone else hear her? No.
I've messaged this chair, but just to let her know.
Oh dear, I think I think we might have lost her altogether. I'm not seeing her at all.
Still on the chat, but there's no.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay, I think
Just move on, Chair.
we'll probably just move
Gotcha.
on. Yeah. Okay, so next up we have Margaret Kelly, Business Planning Manager from Enterprise and Communities, to talk about a housing strategy update. Margaret, I think you're with us, yeah?
Yeah, thanks,
Apologies.
Oh, somebody wants to come in there?
I think it was Colin, Chair.
Colin, I think you're on mute.
Apologies. I thought it was the Caroline had her electronic hand up, so I wasn't sure if she wanted to comment on anything. No, you've obviously just left it up by mistake. That's fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Sorry.
Okay, Margaret, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. I'll just try and share this presentation. Fingers crossed. So if you could maybe let me know if you see it okay, and hopefully this will. Okay. So somebody could just shout out if they see the presentation all right.
Yeah, we've got it.
Okay, so thanks everybody for enabling an opportunity for me to come along tonight and talk a wee bit about our consultative draft local housing strategy, which spans the next 5-year period. My name is Margaret Kelly. I'm from the Housing Strategy team, and we were out at the last round of community boards prior to developing the draft local housing strategy. So to start off, it's really just to say a huge thanks to everyone who's been involved in terms of developing the strategy. It really has been appreciated, your input so far to date. So hopefully we'll get some further input this evening that will help inform the finalised strategy. So just to give you a quick overview in terms of the presentation this evening, I'll cover some brief background on how we got to the stage where we're at today with the strategy, what we are trying to achieve with the new strategy, which is set out in the key priorities and actions, next steps in the process of finalising the strategy, and then hopefully we'll have a short opportunity for some discussion afterwards. So for anyone who isn't familiar with the local housing strategy, it is the overarching housing strategy for North Lanarkshire. It's an all 10-year document that sets out a vision for housing and housing related services. Covers a broad range of issues, including how we will tackle issues such as homelessness, fuel poverty and climate change, house conditions, specialist provision, amongst other areas. Have been developing the draft local housing strategy for over the past year and a half, and this has involved a review of local and national evidence to produce a suite of thematic evidence papers which set out the key challenges and housing issues in North Lanarkshire over the next 5 years. It also involved undertaking a housing and demand assessment, which we complete usually every 5 years. And that supports not just the local housing strategy, but also the local development.
Excuse me, Chair, it's Marcus Taylor here. Margaret, I can't hear you very well at all. I don't know if everybody else is the same, but just your volume is very low. Could you possibly increase your volume?
Yeah, I'll just see if I can.
Sorry, I thought that was just me, Matt.
Oh, sorry, do you know it? I'll just see if I can actually increase the volume here. Is that any better? No.
Slightly.
Slightly. I'll try and actually see if I can speak a wee bit louder and actually stay closer to the laptop to see if that makes any difference. Is that any better? A wee bit better. Apologies for this tonight in terms of the volume. I will work on this for the other community boards. Hopefully people have been able to catch some of what I've said so far. Where we're at in terms of housing and demand assessment, it helps us inform our housing supply targets, but also helps us capture the information and operation of the housing system, and that helps us develop housing policies on housing and but also housing related services. Where we're at to date, we're underway with housing and demand assessment 3, and we hope to complete this process over the next few months. At that stage, we will further update the strategy. We've also done lots of consultation over the past year. That included lots of face-to-face events prior to COVID-19 restrictions being implemented. And then after that, lots of online focus groups, workshops, telephone interviews, online surveys and presentations. All of this activity has culminated in the draft local housing strategy, which you see today, which is published and available for consultation until the end of August. So what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to make North Lanarkshire the place to live through the provision of high quality housing and support in sustainable communities that enables people to thrive and prosper. To help achieve this vision, we have set out 7 strategic housing outcomes covering the key priority areas of housing delivery, sustainable communities, tackling homelessness, promoting independent living, health and well-being, tackling climate change and fuel poverty, improving house condition and improving standards and quality in the private rented sector. Each of these strategic housing outcomes have a number of supporting actions to help achieve the outcome and the overarching vision. For the purpose of this presentation and the time we have available, I've grouped the main key actions together to give you some insight into what we are trying to achieve in the new strategy. A fuller insight into the challenges and the range of actions can be found on the Council's website. So in terms of meeting housing needs, that covers housing outcome 1, which is around improving the range of high quality housing across tenures, but also housing outcome 2, which is around homelessness. So delivering more alternative tenure housing to meet a broader range of needs is a key priority. This includes more mid-market rent homes, but also shared equity homes and developing a self-build register, which we will publish on the Council's website, and also looking into other ways in which we can use planning policy and the use of public land to support the delivery of self-build. As mentioned, we will complete Housing Need and Demand Assessment 3, and this will provide us with a new housing supply target across tenures. We will also continue to deliver high quality new affordable homes. As many of you will know, we already have one of the most ambitious council new build programmes in Scotland. We have 5,000 new council homes planned for delivery by 2035. We also have 3,000 affordable homes, including RSL, Housing Association Partners and Council, planned over the next 5 years. Because the scale of our programme is very ambitious, we also propose to expand the use of our off-the-shelf purchases from private developers and expand the open market purchase scheme, which also helps us with other issues such as long-term empty properties and helps us progress works in mixed tenure blocks through acquiring full or majority ownerships of blocks of flats. In terms of the private rented sector, we aim to make it more attractive and accessible as a viable housing option, so we intend to work with private landlords going forward over the course of the new strategy. For homelessness, we want to progress the actions which are contained within the Rapid Rehousing Transition Plan, and this helps ensure that people can access permanent accommodation first and foremost, and when we do need to use temporary accommodation, the time spent in temporary accommodation is minimised, and people with complex needs have access to wraparound support to help them sustain a tenancy in the longer term and help prevent recurrent homelessness. In terms of sustainable communities, we recognise that housing makes a vital contribution but is much wider than just bricks and mortar. So we want to help support the town visions through delivering some really transformative housing projects to increase residential provision in town centres. So that includes projects such as Kildonan Street and Motherwell Town Hall. We also want to work with other services and wider partners to ensure our communities are connected well, so that involves exploring 20-minute neighbourhoods in a North Lanarkshire context and also improving the provision of digital, physical and social infrastructure for our communities. We're progressing really well with our tower reprovisioning programme, and we are on track and aim to complete demolition of around 1,750 units by 2025, and we aim to identify those for demolition for phase 2 within the course of the new strategy. Whilst at the same time as this, we will continue to invest in the safety and security of our tenants in our towers through the range of fire prevention works we're carrying out to help ensure that they remain sustainable in the interim. And in addition to our empty homes increasing their supply of council stock, we will work with owners to bring more empty homes back into use in the private sector to improve the amenity of areas. In terms of specialist provision, we know there is a shortfall of wheelchair homes currently, which we project to rise as we go forward. As such, we will increase the number of wheelchair homes across tenures, so that includes the private sector, which will involve working with developers to raise awareness of issues and need, and working with our RSL partners to provide wheelchair livable homes. We will also increase the provision of adaptable and accessible homes, which adapt to people's needs over their life course. We propose to develop greater housing options for older people, including shared equity for older people with limited equity that may not be enough to realise a housing solution in the open market, and also plan to implement a downsizing scheme. We want to explore more options in relation to technology, so it's quite interesting listening to the item earlier on in the agenda. That includes learning from a smart homes pilot within a retirement complex, and also developing a smart home standard across council new build homes. We also know that we have a gap in some understanding around housing needs, so we want to understand more about specific challenges that some people face in accessing housing. And specifically, we want to look at gypsy travellers, women and children who experience domestic abuse, and care experienced young people. Moving on to the second last slide and the last area in terms of our key actions. Improving house condition and energy efficiency is very closely linked, and we aim to tackle fuel poverty and climate change and improve housing condition through developing a route map for our homes to be net zero by 2030 in line with the Council's climate change emergency declaration. We also want to promote better energy advice and signposting to ensure people have access to information to help them save money on their fuel bills, whilst undertaking further work to better understand the extent and scale of fuel poverty in North Lanarkshire. We will deliver an action set out in the Council's Housing Asset Management Plan, Homes Fit for the Future, to enact a range of actions to improve house condition and council stock. And for the private sector, we will strengthen what's already in the draft LHS following the consultation feedback that we've had so far around disrepair specifically. So further work with owners to help address issues in mixed tenure blocks and estates, and working with private landlords to improve compliance with regulations. So in terms of our next steps, we're currently in our phase 2 of our consultation. So the consultation is on the draft local housing strategy, which is out for comment just now. All the feedback and comments we receive will be used to inform the finalised local housing strategy. We plan to take the final strategy to committee in cycle 4 this year, but it is pending on feedback from Scottish Government on the draft strategy, so it is quite fluid at the moment, but that is our intention. And if we do meet that timescale, then we anticipate that we would adopt a final strategy late this year. Just a few links for you, so you can view the strategy on the Council's website. There is also an online survey, and we will keep that open until this round of community boards complete. And you can also send feedback direct to us at the local housing strategy email inbox. So if you prefer to do that, we would more than be happy to actually receive any other comments. That's all for tonight. So hopefully you've been able to hear some of that presentation, and apologies for any sound quality issues. And it's really just open to discussion now. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, Margaret. Anyone want to make any comment or have any questions?
Hi, Suzanne, could I maybe come in here?
Of course you can, Billy.
Listen, it was very hard to follow that, you know, there for Margaret, you know, I think if we maybe get copies of it would be, you know, very helpful, especially to myself who works a long way trying to house people, you know, so I'd be very grateful if maybe I could get a copy of what was discussed. Sorry, Margaret, it was very hard to hear you, and my eyesight's not the best nowadays, so thanks anyway, Margaret.
Thanks, Billy. Yeah, we'll get a copy of the presentation circulated. That'd be great. Councillor Goldie, did you have your hand up there, or were you? No.
No, I was just putting my thumb up to say it would be useful for people who haven't seen the present or have struggled with the presentation to get the slides out. As councillors, we obviously get more information than others on that, but it'd be useful for everybody else to get the information.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm back. I'm really sorry. I lost connection now. It's Maddie here. I think this is the worst night I've ever had remotely. I'm really sorry.
Okay, Maddie, do you want to very quickly continue, or do you want to maybe put it off to the next board meeting? It's entirely up to you.
Well, what I wanted to say is that it's probably, what time does the meeting end? I'm just conscious.
Yeah, we're due to finish at half eight.
Oh, right. So
quite a few items on the agenda that we do need to get
okay.
to. So.
I can do my presentation without it visually, but given what Billy's just said, I'm not sure that's going to go down so well. Sorry, Billy, I don't mean to be critical of you. I mean, I'm acknowledging what you've just said. What I wanted, I'm really sorry about this. Matt, you haven't got the presentation yet. Matt, Christie, I don't know what's going on. I've obviously got internet problems because I got bumped off my emails. It shows that I've sent it, but it's not gone to you. Shall we? I'm presenting at all the other boards from tomorrow night onwards for this round. I could defer it until the next Cumbernauld one, but also we're having a more general NL-wide community launch event with workshops for each locality on the 29th. So community boards will be invited to those. So the presentation I'm doing tonight will be pretty similar. The difference is we're going to have longer for group discussion in workshops about what local communities want to do. The main thrust of the recommendation I was making is that we want to support the formation of local climate action groups to support community-led climate action. And although today you might not be able to discuss that in detail, the launch at the end of the 29th of September is going to give space to do that. So I'm really sorry about all my tech problems tonight, but will people think that's a better way forward to come back at your next meeting and people can be invited to that event at the end of September?
Yeah, I'm seeing nodding heads. I think that sounds like a plan.
Okay, I'm really sorry. It hasn't happened to me before, but there's always a first, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah, we're all at the mercy of technology, unfortunately. So, but thanks for that. Okay.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Stuff.
And Grant is still here from Vanal, and I'll say goodbye because I've not long been home from being away. So I will exit the meeting if that's okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
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 Bye. Okie dokie. So moving on, I think, Matt, we've got you for the next couple of items. The first one being flexible funding.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. The copy of the report was sent out with the papers, and the report is just to update on the report that was brought to the Community Board previously in relation to flexible fund and the tackling insecurity fund. So the report's to update on that. Just demonstrates the additional funding that's been created through the flexible fund, funding that came from the Scottish Government through to the Council. And that's been sent out to a number of different groups, different kind of streams across North Lanarkshire, from the communities team, community learning and development, and the financial inclusion team. Appendix 1 of the report shows the funding for local community groups that was paid out fairly recently, and the money was awarded earlier this year. Just to make you aware, there is a second round of funding to support digital inclusion. It's currently ongoing, and groups have been invited to apply for funding by the 6th of September for digital IT equipment to be used for the groups to support group activity, and they'll be assessed and hopefully paid out around about October time. But that's ongoing at the moment. It's just to make people aware of that. Chair.
Smashing, thanks very much. It's a substantial amount of money that's been paid out to groups, and it's, I'm sure, really welcome. Any comments or points? No. Okay, so next we have community partnership updates, Matt, and it's the board development sessions.
Thanks again, Chair. You'll recall at the last meeting we spoke about, the last couple of board meetings I've spoken about the ongoing process in relation to the community board development sessions that have been created in the training plan. So just to update you on that, we did extend the questionnaire, etc. that was put out in relation to the training needs assessment. That's just recently closed. So there will be a more detailed report will be presented to the community boards, hopefully the next cycle. But just to give you an update, early indications are we've got about 26% feedback from the people who were sent out the link in relation to the community board development sessions. Some of the main areas for development coming out so far are related to the community asset transfer, participatory budgeting, local development programme, local outcome improvement plans, the budget process across the council and partners, partnership working in general. Some more kind of focused areas have been relating to the board, kind of managing conflict within boards, managing priorities within the board, and how we deal with the approach to seldom heard groups. So that's the kind of main points that have come out at the moment, and we'll give further detail on that as that process develops. So as the timetable is developed, further communication will be sent out to the boards, further interaction with all the board members for feedback, and a detailed report will be provided to the community boards. And the next stage to that is to work on a timetable for the actual training events, etc., taking place, and based on what the information that has came back through the training needs assessment. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Any points or questions? Nope. Okay. And it's back to Matt again, local development programme.
Thanks again, Chair. This report that was sent out relates to a local development programme. It gives an update on the prioritisation of projects within the area. Just also additions and some proposed deletions to some of the projects. Just at the Community Empowerment Committee this morning, we did add 2 further projects on to the Cumbernauld Board in terms of ones in principle approval, ones that there'll be further information pulled together on these, but just to make you aware of them at the board in relation to additional potential CCTV at the Cumbernauld Park area and also parking in Melrose Avenue. Those are 2 projects that have been considered, have came forward from local community groups. So we mentioned them this morning at the Community Empowerment Committee, and we can include that in future community board reports. We'll say consultations on some of the projects will be commencing over the next few weeks. We now have project team in place. We have a project development officer and a project support assistant now in place to take forward the local development project within the team, and the project proposal forum, which I believe some of you will be familiar with. Some of you will have received that for projects you're looking to propose, and that's something that we are happy to share with anybody else going forward, and the recommendation that people speak to the communities team before taking that forward. But that's just the update on that report, Chair.
Anybody have any comments or points? Councillor Goldie?
Just managed to take it as Melrose Road rather than Melrose Avenue.
Apologies, just the wrong addition there. Melrose
I
Road,
take
yeah.
to see the funding going elsewhere, Matt.
No problem.
Anyone else? No. Just one point, Matt, that I think we should have sort of offline discussion about, and that's really welcome, about the potential for CCTV at the Cumbernauld Park. Is that the Cumbernauld Community Park that you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a couple of other areas that we flagged up at the last meeting, and I know that there's a bit of work going on to sort of scope them out. We're looking at what could be done around Carberry Gully and also around the Ravenswood Nature Reserve, both of which have been subject to vandalism and fire raising, etc. So I think it would be helpful if we could get something for them as well.
Absolutely, Chair. The 3 of those have been identified as areas of concern, and we're linking in with the police in relation to that, and also our colleagues who deal with the CCTV to get a kind of assessment carried out in relation to that as well. So we'll feed back on that as soon as we can.
That's really helpful. Thanks very much. Okay, anybody else? Nope. Okay. So
Rosanna, sorry, I'm not sure if you can see my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, no, I didn't see you there. Go ahead, Adam.
No, that's fine, thanks. Just a couple of points, Matt. I think some time ago we had an exchange of emails, maybe about 2 years ago, year and a half ago, about Cumbernauld House Park. And I'm not sure I've seen any progress on that. So I think that there was some funding, some remedial funding for improvements in Cumbernauld House Park, including new benches. Just if we can pick that up. Just to comment as well about the proposal form. So I'd received the form through from Colin just to fill in for a couple of the projects that I'd put forward. And I know that there needs to be a kind of paper and audit trail here, but one of the virtues of the local development programme over the years is it's been a case of you can send an email and that's been good enough to take projects forward. Obviously, I would advocate wherever we can reducing any bureaucracy, and obviously the distinction here between the local development programme and funding applications is this is us asking for the council to do something on land they own, so it's not necessarily asking for money, but I just wanted to kind of highlight there that I would obviously advocate reducing bureaucracy where we can and keeping any kind of forms and paperwork is reduced and as simple as possible. The last point I wanted to make was just about the one of the projects that's on there is stated to be a Cildrum Workers Memorial. Now, I think this was because I put it forward and I happen to be the chair of Cildrum Community Council. But what this was actually for, it was related to International Workers Memorial Day, and it was a Cumbernauld-wide initiative. But at the last community board, I'd asked the question about whether or not the council had any intentions to move forward with a COVID memorial. And Colin replied to say there was no plans in place for that. Now, given that North Lanarkshire does have a workers' memorial at Summerlee, and this would have been an additional local kind of workers' memorial to that, and given the impact of COVID, I would much rather that the funds that are proposed to the workers' memorial would be used to create a local COVID memorial. And that's something that I would recommend and put forward to the board. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Can I come back in at those points, Chair?
Sure, Matt, yeah.
Certainly, we'll certainly link in with you, Adam, in relation to Cumbernauld House Park, which sure Colin contacts you about it. It takes a bit more further detail regarding that, to see what's outstanding there. In terms of the proposal forum, but we really feel that the proposal forum is something that it's going to be quite worthwhile going forward. We totally share your view in terms of adding any bureaucracy. It's the last thing we want to do, but it really does give us a very good audit trail as to where projects are originating from. It gives us an idea about consultation that may have taken place, some local awareness, etc. And it's the kind of thing that we've been doing. There isn't I wouldn't say it's a hugely onerous forum to complete, and we'd certainly give advice in relation to help to take that forward. So it's something we do hope to continue and make it as easy as possible to have that. We use that to then form a design brief to take forward projects as well. So it helps us in relation to that. Also, in relation to the COVID memorial, I don't know if something I was going to update on tonight at some point is in relation to, there is an ongoing national initiative in relation to COVID memorials that are now taking place, where there's going to be funding for the 32 Scottish local authorities for a COVID memorial, and this is something that's going to be taken forward. It's still to be finalised in terms of they're looking to appoint artists and designers, etc., to do that. But with the funding coming to each council area to have this delivered, this is something that we intend to do, and we will be part of that. And I'm sure it was something that will come to the board for future deliberation as to where that's going to be, etc. It doesn't answer your particular point about a local COVID memorial. I don't know whether that's something that would be. There will be one in North Lanarkshire that will cover the people who have sadly lost their lives, and also commemorate the hard work that the people who have continued to work, etc., and support all the agencies through this. And I think that's the idea of what the COVID memorial will do going forward. So that's something there will be, and we'll ensure that this board and others have an input to that. Whether we do a local memorial, it's up to the board as to whether that's something we take forward, but it's something that again, we need to have a project proposal form for that. We need to see the backing for it, any consultation in relation to it. it's something that needs a few steps to take forward. But if the board wants us to look at that, then we're happy to do that. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Adam, are you okay with that just now?
Yeah, that's fine, and I'll tie up with Matt and Colin after the meeting. Thanks.
Okay. It might be helpful if the proposal form gets circulated to the groups that are involved here. Is that something that can be done?
Has been circulated, Chairman, in the past, but we can certainly put it out again.
That would be useful, yeah, just as a wee update.
No problem.
Okay, thank you. Masham. Okay, the next update is Colin, Bruce, Leanne Pollock, and it's the local outcome improvement plan update.
Hello. Well, you'll see that Leanne's not about, so I'm afraid you're stuck with me, but that's not going to be for long. I'm sure you've noticed that you've not actually received the digital copy of the LOIP thus far, but I can promise you it is coming very, very soon. As you know, the board approved it and we're very grateful for that. There's been some technicalities that we're trying to fix, and we've seen, you know, kind of the mock-ups and the drafts of all the 9 LOIPs, and they're looking really great. And the one for Cumbernauld is part of that. So I'm hoping that in the next, you know, day or two, I will be sharing it with all board members so that you can kind of look over it. And in case, I'll probably put my email address or Leanne's or someone's in case you see any little errors, because Leanne and I have probably looked at these LOIPs so many times you sometimes don't see things. So I can guarantee you will have it in the next couple of days. We've just got a few things to sort out, and we would hopefully plan to officially launch it after all the board meetings, once we've got all the links are working and all the bits and pieces we need, because we need to make sure that people can go into the document and they're able to click a link and it actually goes to where it's supposed to be. We're just having a few technical issues with that just now, so it'll be sorted, folks. Happy to take any queries or questions or comments on that, but you will definitely have it very shortly.
Thank you very much, Colin. That's much appreciated. Any points, comments? Councillor Goldie.
Thanks. It's just realise that we're really far along the lines with the LOIPs. So it's just that Caroline's comments earlier on about young people. I know that we had a limited input in from young people. Would be still possible to incorporate any kind of information and comments from there?
Probably at this, I mean, we have been working with the our CLD colleagues in the youth work team, and some of the comments are already in place. There has been a change of structure for youth voice, whereas there was for the youth forums only covered, I think, 6 areas, but now there's these youth voice structures that are going to cover all 9 board areas. So although the actual information may not necessarily be in the LOIP at this present time, the information at the back of the templates, which is really the working documents, will be there. So yes, we probably got the information that we require, but it'll be updated within the working groups, and that's the key thing for us, Councillor Goldie. The actual bit of paper, the thing that you'll see on the internet is the front-facing document. Hopefully it's as user-friendly as possible, but the actual groups and the subgroups that are going to be set up to take the priorities forward in each of our board areas are absolutely vital, because that's when we kind of look at, you know, the impacts and the outcomes that we can make for local community within the priorities that are being identified, and that's where we will see a difference from each board to each board, because you'll see the progression hopefully on all the dynamism within what's going to happen within Cumbernauld through the LOIPs. But I would say, you know, I think they've got about, the LOIPs have still got about 7 years or so. So we're not going to be able to do everything in one go, but certainly, you know, we'll be looking at having a sustained approach that links in with the plan for North Lanarkshire and the partners within that, and hopefully we can move on and make a difference to the community across Cumbernauld.
Just a comment here, if you'll indulge me. That's really good to hear, and I know the amount of work that Colin and the team have done on this, you know, and I wouldn't like to saddle them with an enormous amount of extra work over the next wee while just to get that out, but I'm quite happy with that response.
That's great. Yeah, I think you're right. It is not a small piece of work by any manner of means, so
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, I want to emphasise that absolutely across the communities team, it's been, you know, it's been a lot of work, a lot of engagement, a lot of challenges, and those will all continue. But the work that we're trying to do to make a difference in that connecting the dots with the plan for North Lanarkshire, you know, the town and community hubs, all the different infrastructure projects that are going to happen in North Lanarkshire, and the LOIPs are going to be, you know, central to that. But key to that is local people's participation. That's, you know, absolutely got to be part of that along with our partners. So hopefully as we move on, as I said, we will see the impacts and we'll see the differences coming out, and all the priorities will be fed back. The progress will be fed back each of the boards, so you'll definitely see the progression as we move on. And there will be other folk, not necessarily here on the screen, but there'll be other folk out there in the community who will get involved in things. That's what we really want. It's about that kind of wholesale community involvement, whether you're a young person in Cumbernauld or somebody who lives in, you know, a care home somewhere else within the Cumbernauld community. You know, it's about getting the voices included in the LOIPs and making sure that we make that clear difference.
Fascinating. Thank you very much, Colin.
Could I just reinforce that point? I know that the local authority are probably just about to basically produce and let people know about their new children's services plan. I think everything that Colin said, and I think just to reassure you, Councillor Goldie, about reaching out within our communities, and particularly our most vulnerable communities, is very clearly demonstrated within the children's services plan. So I'm quite, as an advocate myself who works with vulnerable young people, I'm actually quite excited that actually the local authority are looking at quite imaginative and very different ways of linking in with partner agencies to ensure that the voices of our young people across Cumbernauld, across Lanarkshire are actually, North Lanarkshire are actually truly represented. But I think you'll see that within the commitments that the local authority have made within the Children's Services Plan. So I think that will back up, hopefully, how we go forward in terms of ensuring that our young people are engaged with our community structures.
Thanks, Caroline, and that's maybe something that we could have a presentation on at a future board meeting, because sounds like you know, would definitely be something that we would be interested in. Colin, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I keep pressing the wrong buttons. Apologies, Chair. Thank you, Caroline, for that. That was excellent. I was just going to say, to emphasise that obviously, you know, the plan for North Lanarkshire, the structures that we're working on is very much a partnership approach. You know, NLC, the council, you know, are part of that key jigsaw. And, you know, we're working with a whole range of different partners throughout the North Lanarkshire partnership. And the way that we'll move forward is very much in a partnership approach, but it's vital that local people, you know, who are involved in community life continue to be involved, but it's also important for those who maybe haven't been, or they've maybe volunteered through COVID and they've actually found that they've enjoyed it, continue that. You know, we need to kind of keep the momentum of people who are involved. And yes, it's going to be a challenge. I'm not going to lie, it will be a challenge, but we can see through a kind of strategic approach the effects and hopefully the differences in the impact through time of the local outcome improvement plans. Sorry, Chair.
That's okay. Thanks very much, Colin. Anyone else get any comment on that, or should we move on? Okay, so we're moving on to community matters now, and some items that had been flagged up to me that people would like an update on. The first was the campuses funding. I know that the committee was this morning. I'm wondering if we can get an update on what's happened with that, please.
Hi, Chair. I can give you an update on that. A report went to Community Empowerment Committee this morning with recommendations regarding funding for a number of groups, and also a recommendation that a second round of applications are invited fairly soon in relation to the outstanding funding left in the Campsies Fund, and that was approved at committee this morning with an amendment to the report, in that there were a couple of aspects to the amendment. Was one, that the people who had applied before and were successful, the groups that applied before and were successful, couldn't apply any further after this for any future cycles, and also that all elected members in the Cumbernauld area would be involved in made aware of the applications, etc., that were made in the next round of funding, so that they were had an overview of what kind of applications had been received for the next and any subsequent rounds. So that was the update from today.
Okay, that's fine, thank you. Anyone get any comment, questions? Anything they wish to say at this stage? No, I've got a hand up from Billy. Billy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to come back, you know, in the way the applications were dealt with, Suzanne. There was 43 applications. I would like to ask how they were assessed and why only 9 out of 43 actually got funding. I think, you know, the way these were assessed was ridiculous, and I'm not going to mention any groups that got money, but I'm not happy with the way it was done. I represent many groups in Cumbernauld, and I don't think even the smaller groups were taken into consideration, the ones that don't have online. And I think the officers should be ashamed of themselves that the way that this was presented and assessed.
Okay, thanks, Billy. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, could I come in, please, Chair?
Yep, go ahead, Tony.
Hi everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm Tony Murphy from Cumbernauld Resilience. Thanks very much for the invite to come along today. Just to kind of echo, I suppose, what Billy was saying, we've put a lot of time and effort into this, you know, this application for Cumbernauld Resilience. I don't know if everybody's aware, but since the outbreak of COVID, we quickly got the group together, and at one point I think we had about 150 volunteers. We now look upon ourselves as being an integral part of Cumbernauld, and moving forward, we've got a lot of big initiatives that we've, you know, in the pipeline. But without this funding, it really is going to put us in serious doubt and put us in a bad place, because part of that was to try and move to new premises, because we're currently based in Sacred Heart Church, which moving forward is not going to be sustainable. Now, even at Christmas time, if I was aware, but we provided well over 600 families and vulnerable people in the Cumbernauld area with gifts and a Christmas meal and a New Year meal. And we've also provided well over 100,000 families meals for families and the vulnerable and the elderly throughout Cumbernauld. We're really quite saddened that we've been completely dismissed and received zero, you know, funding. And as Billy rightly said, to find out there was 9 got it, and out of 45, I think, it's quite disappointing, if I'm being honest. And it's going to put a tremendous strain on our group, to be honest. I mean, we're all volunteer based, and we were looking, some of that funding was hopefully going to try and provide some of our stalwart staff with maybe some kind of we're compensating in some way for all the work we've done. You know, and it really is, it's going to be very, very difficult for me as a chair, and indeed our own trustees, to try and motivate people, volunteers, to move forward. It's just really, it was just to express their disappointment and the way this is all going about. I appreciate there's other rounds coming up, but £10,000, yeah, it's a tremendous amount of money, but nowhere near the 50,000 that we were kind of hoping and that we would have got. So that's kind of where we're at with it just now.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Anyone else? Not seeing any. Okay. Okay, Matt, I don't know if you want to make any further comment or just leave it at that. It's up to you.
Oh, Chair, I'm happy to pick up on a couple of points that were made. Just maybe give an assurance, first of all, that the staff involved in any aspect of this assessment dealt with in a very professional manner in terms of assessing the applications and making proposals and recommendations to committee. The way the assessments were carried out was approved at Community Empowerment Committee and by the Campsies Board, very much in a lot of ways based on the grant award programme. But that's the way the applications were considered on that basis and pointed by the panel of officers who looked at that. Totally understand that people will be disappointed in this, and we're happy to give one-to-one feedback to groups in relation to the outcome of the applications, and we're more than happy to do that, to give further information about where we felt the applications could have been stronger or any other reasons as to why applications did not proceed on that basis. Yes, there was 9 applications out of 42 applications that came forward. We were never going to be able to fund 42 applications. There was £1.6 million worth of applications received for the Campsies, and there was just under £570,000 available. So it was 200% oversubscribed from day one. So we were never going to be able to fund every group that came forward on that basis. And just to give you an idea of some of the statistics that we had in relation to the applications, I mean, there was a lot of people who did reasonably well as far as applications came forward, but there's a lot of people who scored similar in terms of the number of points they would received, and we couldn't fund all of those groups. That was just the crux of it, because they're taking up more of the funding we had on that basis. So that's why the decision was made, as it says in the report, to fund the groups who had scored, the ones who demonstrated the most effectively the applications and the criteria, and that's why that happened in that, Chair. But as I say, I'm more than happy to speak to, or the team will be more than happy to speak to individual groups in relation to that.
That's helpful. Billy, you want to quickly come back in again?
Yeah, Mark mentioned something there that Campsie Board approved of these applications. I'm afraid that's not true, Mark. According to what my knowing of the
Well, I didn't say that.
Of the members of the, you let me finish, Mark?
Certainly.
I've actually disagreed with the way the assessment went. So I think you should come up, a bit better with your observation of who approved and who disapproved.
Can I come back in, Chair?
Certainly, yeah.
Just to say, Billy, that's not what I said. I didn't say the Campsies Board approved of the applications. I said the Campsies Board approved of the process for looking at the applications. The board themselves had no role in the outcome of the decisions in relation to the applications themselves. That was a matter for the Community Empowerment Committee.
Can I just say again, Suzanne?
Yeah.
Am I muted again?
No, we've got you. We can hear you.
No. The thing is, if you're saying that was left to the Community Empowerment Committee, but wasn't left to them. You've made the assessments. You've went through the applications, not the board members of the Campsie Board members. You've went through that. You've put that forward to the Community Empowerment Committee, not the board or nobody else.
Okay, Caroline, have you still got your hand? Is that a previous hand up that you've got, or do you want to come in on this?
I would like to come in on this. Working for a charity who has been affected by COVID just like everybody else has, and our families, young people, care leavers have also been affected. I think one of the things that's probably been quite special for us was, and I don't know if it's a reputational thing, so please forgive me, but we were able to access additional funding directly from the Scottish Government, and listening to what Tony's done in Cumbernauld, I have to say that across North Lanarkshire, we didn't do anything different than what Tony did. And can I give you an example? So last year we had at Christmas, we had a Christmas Wishes Fund, which was for any care experienced person or anyone with additional support needs, kinship care across North Lanarkshire could get in touch with us and they could get Christmas presents for their kids, which was exactly what Tony's group have done. January, February, we had the Winter Aid Fund, which was for the most vulnerable people that we work with. Again, Scottish Government funding. We got people who were literally destitute, gas, electricity, food parcels, access to food banks, and we were given additional funds from the Scottish Government. I think the question that I have here is, as a partnership within North Lanarkshire, how are services and amazing services like Tony's, how are we supporting them to access funds that are more than just the kind of local element of kind of fundraising? You know, we were able to access local government funds because we knew those funds were available, and I don't know if Tony, if your group were aware that actually you could have maybe, you know, went to the Scottish Government, sourced some additional funding. And I think my question is, how are we supporting local groups like Tony's to actually access the additional pots of money that I know are there as a bigger organisation, but actually I don't know if you do, Tony. I think that's my question.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point, Caroline. Certainly, you know, we're all mostly working people. We've got our own careers and jobs, etc., families. So everything's purely voluntary. So we're just trying to tap in the best we can when we can to these kind of resources. And any help we can get steering towards these kind of grants is absolutely vital. You know, it's not just helpful, it's really, really vital. So yeah, I mean, if anybody in this meeting can help us with that, it'd very much. And we've certainly applied for a lot of grants and done very, very well. We've had over £100,000 in grants through the lottery and things like that. But that runs out very quickly, you know, once you buzz through it, because we're providing people with 3 meals a day, you know, 3, you know, breakfast, lunch and dinner for families, you know, 7 days a week, 365 days a year since the outbreak of COVID. So we are very much still learning, you know, without a doubt, Caroline. And it's quite heartening to hear that, if I'm being honest.
I think there's more work that we can do to support at a local level. Do you know what I mean? I think there's more connectors and more connections. You know, is there support that your organisation could get more in terms of like support to fill out fundraising applications, for example? Is there a better way in terms of the community focus that we could actually help organisations like yourself access the funds that we know are there? And it's not just about, you know, the kind of local elements. There's a lot of national funding as well that you guys could access.
I know. I mean, it's a steep learning curve for us, you know, it really, really is. And a funding officer for us would be fantastic, but we just don't have that resource, you know, as being a totally volunteers-based group, you know. Yeah, so it's good to hear that kind of stuff, you know, but as I say, we really do need that help because our funds are almost gone, you know, and we've all just disappeared, and that's not right. And Cumbernauld, we've galvanised Cumbernauld in the last 18 months. I mean, Suzanne will back me up. I mean, the amount of people calling, you've seen it as well, people that have come on board and helped, and we helped people through COVID, even just the volunteers who have loved this opportunity to work within Cumbernauld with their, you know, I mean, say 150 volunteers is not to be sniffed at. I mean, we are now put forward being nominated for a national charity award in a few weeks' time, which is fantastic, you know. But to get that bad news all day kind of has taken the wind out of our sails. There's no doubt about it. But we're, as the name suggests, we're resilient, so we will fight back and we will dust ourselves down and get on with it, you know, because that's what we'll do, you know. But thanks for the heads up.
That's the key. That's the key for any how would you say, local community like myself, you know, who lives in Cumbernauld, and I'm very proud to live in Cumbernauld, to actually work and to be effective and to support our local community. We do need a bit of kind of external help. So I think my other question then is, you know, is there an opportunity for us as a collective to reach out to, you know, Vanel, local authorities, to look at whether there's more organisations like yourself locally, Tony, that could get some fundraising, you know, like bidding support, advice, guidance?
Can I just interrupt for a wee second, because I noticed that Anna Ennis has made a really good comment in the chat about you know, looking to see if there could be joint bids along with Case. I think that sounds really good. And also to highlight Vanel, and I know that Grant's here with us, and I think this is part of his remit, but Vanel are really very supportive in terms of assisting with funding bids. I do think you have hit on a really important point, and it would be really interesting once we see a bit more detail about the awards for the Campsies funding, about whether it's organisations who have professional bid writers that have been awarded. And that'll be something that, you know, maybe as a community we do need to have a look at moving forward. But I think if it's okay, we'll maybe just tie this discussion up for the moment, if that's all right. And maybe,
can I come in with one point here?
Certainly, yes, Billy.
You know, we understand now there's going to be a second round of funding. Now, I think everybody that's not on the community board that's applied and put funding applications in, I think it's a bit much. I don't know if it's right or not, Matt, you'll be able to tell me, that we've got to start filling in another application to try and get funding again, when we're heart and soul, as Tony explained, into getting our applications in and getting them the way we wanted, but now we're going to have to fill in another application.
That's something that we can find out, Billy. We'll come back to you. I noticed that Alex got his hand up. So Alex, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just a point to Matt. It's my understanding that the Campsies board dissolved themselves and passed the money to the council, and it was down to the council through its processes to allocate the funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, Alex.
Yeah, so the Campsies board are not involved in the distribution of those funds now.
No, absolutely
okay. Fine.
Okay.
Can I just clarify that point, Chair, just that Billy raised there, that subsequent applications, new applications will be required for this process?
Okay.
Disgrace.
All right, thanks very much for that. I think I'm going to draw this discussion to a close now. I think everybody's had the opportunity to make their points. And I think maybe as a board we need to think more about some sort of, you know, supporting each other. And Caroline's point was really relevant. And we'll come to communication in the last point in the agenda. But moving on to the next item, that was about the new bins process. Now you'll all have had a report circulated by Christine earlier on today, which basically gives us a sort of update on the position. Does anybody have any comments or questions that they wanted to raise on that? Lisa?
Yeah, I've got one, Suzanne.
Okay, Alex, I'll take you and then I'll come to Lisa.
Sorry?
I'll take you first and then I'll come to Lisa.
Okay. I'd just like to know where we're going on this. The bin project causes me for some concern, because first of all, we're concerned with waste. It's all over Cumbernauld. Now the schools are back, from Our Ladies right up to the town centre. Every day there's loads of waste. There's a lack of bins. Now, what we're doing is we're reducing the number of bins but making them bigger. The idea should be we should have the bins where people walk so that they don't drop the litter on the ground. The second thing is with the new bin measurements and targets and all this, where is that going? I mean, this is not an efficiency thing. This is not required. Just just do for what the council is supposed to do, and that is collect the waste and dispose of it. Not get involved in measuring how you should get it, whether you should get a big bin or a small bin or anything like that. There needs to be some real more consultation with the public on this, because this measure is going to come back and bite hard on the community.
Thanks, Alex. Lisa?
Oh, hello there. Thanks, Chair. So there's several ways the community can get involved and several ways that the council can engage the community. We have community councils and we have this community board. So in Cumbernauld Village, we had bins placed across pavements, blocking pavements completely so that buggies couldn't get past, wheelchairs couldn't get past. So we decided to go out and move them ourselves. They were placed in areas that don't have a litter problem and yet not placed outside takeaway shops and things like that. So I suppose my point really is there are so many ways the councils can consult with us. A quick phone call to any member of the community council would have solved these kind of issues. So why, once again, does the council not bother consulting with the communities that it's impacting?
Thank you. Councillor Goldie?
I've had similar issues with the rollout of the bins, and I've been engaging with Andrew McPherson about the position of the bins. In particular, I think the bins were dropped off by Amy, and what I'm trying to do is to get a review of the bin situation to see where the bins are finally going to be placed. The issues we've got just now is the smaller bins haven't been removed, so in some circumstances, as Lisa said, you've got a small bin in its sited location and you've got a large bin sitting on a pavement adjacent to it. So it's coming up in committee on Wednesday, and I'll be asking some questions on the siting of the bin. Not the bin item isn't coming up on Wednesday, but Environmental Services Committee has come up on Wednesday, and I'm going to make the opportunity of contacting the council and asking questions about the locations, the consultation, and when we're going to get a programme of the smaller bins being taken away and the larger bins being put in place, because in a lot of places we've got two of them. And as a lot of people have reported, they're either in where the community feel are inappropriate or in a position where they're obstructing pavements. But certainly I'm going to pursue this.
Thanks, Councillor. Caroline?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to give you a couple of examples just from my perspective. I've got a 1-year-old Doberman who I absolutely love to death. She's my COVID dog, unfortunately. And every morning before I start work, I do the CFAR run, which involves walking along the path, across Brown Road, up past the park, up to Muirfield, and then round the back. In every section, normally I've got a bin, so if she does a wee poo, that's fine, I know I've got a bin. And this morning I took her the usual run, and just as the previous speaker has just explained, I think it was yourself, Willie, there was the big bin beside the wee bin. The wee bin was full of rubbish. The big bin had nothing in it, you know, so I just walked up and I went up just towards Muirfield, and there was a small bin at Muirfield, and all the litter was spread across the path because obviously it's too small and it's just obviously blown everywhere, and it was an absolute disaster. And then there's no other bin until I get towards the new flats at Seafar Road, where the the petrol station is. And I just think, you know, I want to be a responsible dog owner, not just a responsible dog owner, but I want to actually say to my kids about, you know, this is a lovely place that we live in, and, you know, you need to treat it with respect. And there's no respect when I see in the front of Muirfield when it's covered in litter. So that's my first point. My second point is Cumbernauld Park. There is not enough bins at Cumbernauld Park. You can walk from the top of the park, which is absolutely great. And again, being a responsible dog owner, you can walk right down to the glen. There is not one single bin down at the glen. So people who are dog owners are having to hold their poo until they get back up to the Cumbernauld Park to put it in the bin. I just want to have the ability to be responsible for my community, and I'm sure every other dog owner in this area does as well. So I think you're absolutely spot on. Please, as Lisa said, can you have a conversation with the local community? Because we know where the bins need to be. We know where the hot spots are. We know the areas that need the big bins and need the wee bins. And the local authority just needs to have a conversation with us. That's all.
Thanks very much for that. Matt, I think it might be worth for the next meeting if we ask someone from the environmental services or waste services if they would come along and give us an update. Hopefully by then we'll have had some progress on the issues with the bins, if that's okay. I'm going to move on to Councillor Johnson.
I just wanted to say on the bins issue, I've been dealing with a case exactly as was described by Caroline there, where somebody was wanting a bin in a leafy area behind Abram Hill, behind Cumbernauld High School. And the answer I'm getting from John Ashcroft of Roads is that the council policy now is that the bins will only be placed in streets where bin lorries turn up to take bins, and the bin men will empty the bins as they pass them. And the bins will not be in outlying areas where people have to walk and pick them up. That's the policy just now. I've got that in writing. So that's the status as it is just now, that they will not put them in these places because they've got to, they're saving money by putting the bins only where bin lorries are turning up every week to pick up household bins.
I think that's something that we could discuss with the officers the next time at the next meeting. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next item. Sorry, somebody wanted in.
Sorry, it was myself, Chair. I was just saying that we'll feed all the comments from tonight back to the appropriate services in the council.
Thank you, Christine. That's really helpful. The next item was about withdrawal of recycling, and I guess this probably ties in with inviting them along to the next meeting. I've been made aware that a whole swathe of the town, i.e. in Carrickstone, has had the recycling withdrawn because of non-compliance by some particular households. And it kind of seems to sit, in sort of opposition as to what we're trying to do in terms of recycling, etc. That communities where people do want to recycle are having that withdrawn. So maybe that's something again that we can ask when the officers when they come to the next meeting. Okay. Any other points on that? We'll just move on to the next item. The last item that I had put on was about communication, and it struck me that there are a lot of different community groups on here, and I don't have, and we don't have a way of communicating with each other than through this route. And I wondered if it would be worthwhile considering setting up a WhatsApp group for the community groups involved in the town board. I think it would be really helpful to be able to sort of discuss with each other issues that are coming up, or for example, in terms of what Caroline had said earlier on about supporting each other in terms of funding bids, in terms of volunteers, etc. So it was to see to judge what people feel on that. Would people be willing to participate in something like that? Yep. Okay. What I'll do then is I will get, I'll put an email out to everybody through Christine, and we can then start to exchange details, if that's okay. Okay, moving on to item number 13. I'm really sorry for our community planning partners who always are at the end of the agenda. Maybe next time we'll bump you up higher up the agenda. And I see that we've got Neil MacLeod with us, and Evelyn Ryan. Is Evelyn still with us? Representing Raymond Taylor.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
So Evelyn, do you want to go ahead? Is there anything that you want to update us with?
Just to say the flu, and sorry, not the flu, the COVID vaccination centres are up and running again. Dates and times you can get through the social media for the NHS Lanarkshire. It's in Muirfield. The other thing is about delayed discharge. It's just to say everybody's working to every means at their disposal, and recruitment's taking place with the council to get more home care staff, looking at training, increased use of technology and support from district nursing and clinical staff to provide end-of-life care. So there's a lot of resource going into that to try and facilitate patients back out into the community again, and also using some care home beds to try and get patients out so they're not getting beds blocked in the hospitals. So that's about all I've got to give you updates at the moment.
Smashing, thank you very much. Okay, Neil, you got an update for us?
Yes, I do, Chair. Thank you. Good evening, all. Just as usual, I'll just provide a summary of incidents or crimes which I believe will potentially have caused the greatest community concern over the last period. So the period covered is obviously since our last meeting, which was the 26th of May. So the first topic, house break-ins. So that's between attempt house break-ins and theft by house break-ins. We've seen 9 over the last period, 2 of which so far have been detected, and inquiries are very much ongoing into the remaining 7. No, I have to say, no notable trends as such in amongst all these this housebreaking activity, other than 7 of the 9 incidents have in fact occurred in either Abernhill or Cumbernauld districts. Robberies, there's just been 1 robbery over the last period, and that occurred in June in Abernhill, whereby a delivery driver was robbed at knife point, and as a result of police inquiry, a 17-year-old local male was arrested, and he's since, I'm pleased to say, been remanded in custody. Serious assaults, we've had 6 over the last period, and pleased to report that all 6 of them have been detected to the effect that arrests have been made. So a brief summary of them is the end of May. We had a 17-year-old boy who was seriously assaulted in Cumbernauld Community Park. As a result, a 15 and 16-year-old males were arrested and charged. In June, in Torbricks Road in Cumbernauld, we had a 53-year-old male who was seriously assaulted by a 24-year-old male. He was arrested, charged and remanded in custody. In July, we had in Millcroft Road in Cumbernauld 2 males engaged in a stand-up fight, whereby both came about serious injuries, so both these males were arrested and charged. Again in July, this time Allenford Road in Seafar, we had a 25-year-old male who was subject of a serious assault by a 26-year-old male who was arrested and again remanded in custody. July again, Dilshannon Road, this time in Cundora, 2 males were arrested and charged for serious assault on a 58-year-old male. And lastly, in August, in Braehead Road in Kildrum, we had a serious assault, this time of a taxi driver who was assaulted by his male passenger and came about serious injuries. So a 26-year-old male was later traced, arrested and charged. Willful fire agents, we've had 2 incidents over the last period. The first one was a car that was set on fire in the Westfield area, and the second one was a tree that was set out on fire in somebody's front garden in the Green Falls area. Inquiries ongoing in both these incidents by our CID. Drug supply continues to be an issue for our area, but our teams continue to be proactive in developing intelligence and tackling drug misuse and drug dealing in our communities. And highlights of drugs recovered are £5,000 worth of heroin that was seized from an address in Glenhove Road in Cumbernauld, £6,000 worth of cocaine seized from an address at Blackwood Road in Blackwood, and £7,000 worth of cannabis that was seized as a result of a warrant being executed at Rowan Road in Abernhill. In addition to that, there were 47 other incidents over the period where controlled drugs of some description or amount were recovered. So, as I say, this evidence is that our officers are out and about there, being proactive and engaging with the right people. Antisocial behaviour. I mentioned in the serious assaults summary that we had a 17-year-old boy that was seriously assaulted in Community Park. That followed several reports of antisocial behaviour in Cumbernauld Park, and some of you may have seen in the local media and social media that we utilised our mounted branch and other resources to flood that area, if you like, and try and provide higher visibility to tackle the antisocial issues, mainly around the gathering of youths, large groups congregating and drinking. So we have certainly made an impact in that, and we've seen a real drop in the amount of incidents getting reported. But also in the antisocial theme, we've seen a fairly new issue over the last couple of weeks, whereby we've received a lot of complaints about off-road bikes being used in a section of derelict land at the Mains Park in Cumbernauld. That area is going to be getting some additional focus, again, mainly by our community policing team. Efforts are already ongoing, have been for the last couple of weeks. We've engaged with the Scottish enterprise who own that land, and they've been assisting us by trying to improve the security of the gates at the area, and there's discussion about improving CCTV in that area as well. On the topic of CCTV, it was already mentioned, I think, by yourself, Chair, about the proposal of increased CCTV around Community Park, Cumbernauld Gully and the reservoir. And we've already had that interaction through Colin, and we've provided a kind of summary of evidence, if you like, which supports the necessity for CCTV in those areas. So hopefully we'll see some action in as we move forward. In terms of community work, after the success of the recent bike marking scheme, which we discussed at the last meeting in the form of a pilot for a couple of months there, that was really successful. We saw a great turnout in terms of the sites that we were hosting these bike marking schemes. So the general consensus says that will continue and be expanded to make it wider reaching in our area. So that will be coming soon. As you'll all be aware, the schools are back, so plans are in place for school talks to resume. Obviously throughout COVID that's been really difficult, and it's kind of stalled that. So we're looking to get that back up and running on the theme of personal safety, alcohol and drug awareness. So that's in the process of being done, and we'll be speaking to our friends in the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service as usual, and looking to get some joint initiatives at our schools as well. And lastly, it's just to announce, believe it or not, for those of you that have been working with Closest over the last period, that's 3 years that you've had to listen to my dulcet tones, and it's come to the time for me to move on to a new role. So this will be the last time I'll be tuning in for your community board meeting. By the time the next meeting comes about, it'll be Inspector Susan Ray who will have taken over my position, so you'll be welcoming her to your community board meetings. So it just remains for me to say that thanks very much. I've really enjoyed my time in Cumbernauld. It's been a great place to work, given the variety of issues that we're jointly tackling. There really is genuinely a great community spirit in Cumbernauld, which is evidenced by some of the discussion that's been ongoing today. And it's much to the credit of those that are regularly tuning in for these meetings as well. So yes, that's it for me. Thanks very much, folks.
Very much, Neil, and I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say thank you for your input to these meetings. It certainly has been very informative, and we wish you all the very best in your new role, wherever that may take you. Okay, and finally, I think I've got Ricky McInnes from Strathclyde Fire and Rescue. Oh, sorry, I've got Willie Goldie with his hand up.
Yeah, and me too, Suzanne.
Claire as well. I'm going to beat Claire to it.
Right.
Just thanks, Neil, for all the support that you've given us, and your team and your predecessors. We have been very lucky in Cumbernauld, and the police have been fantastic with us. Whenever we have concerns raised from the community and brought to the police, it's always been given attention, and they've always been pretty good at telling us what's achievable and what's not achievable. So, and that's really worthwhile. So thanks, Neil. And is it a promotion?
No, I'm afraid not, unless you're telling me different. No, a sideways move. I'm not going too far. I'm going down to Airdrie, Coatbridge. So you've not quite got me out of North Lanarkshire yet.
Claire?
Yeah, it was really just to reiterate, as I've said to you myself, Neil, really we appreciate your input. We've appreciated your support. I know that I certainly have. And Cumbernauld loss is there to Coatbridge's gain. But thank you for all the work that you've done in the last 3 years, and by God, it has really flown past. But it's been a baptism of fire, because for half of that time you've had to deal with the COVID stuff. So thanks again. Really, really appreciated.
Thanks very much, Clint.
Thank you. Ellie, did I see you with your hand up?
Yeah, I did, Sudan. Neil, I know over the past COVID, you know, we've not been able to meet up regularly. So I'm only sorry to see you go before we meet you again. And I know it'll be a loss to us, you know, but us not having any, you know, big days, you appreciate we've not been able to meet with you. But I'd just like to add one other thing, Suzanne, about police. I don't know if you know that John King and myself were summoned to go to police headquarters just the other day there, and to our surprise, John and I were given Volunteer of the Year by Police Scotland. So I just thought I'd pass that on.
Oh, congratulations, and very, very well deserved. That's lovely. Well done. Well done.
Just to add to that, yes, and that was remiss of me not to mention that myself, Billy, but that was obviously in recognition of all the community spirited work carried out by these two gentlemen. So yeah, very rightly well deserved.
Thanks, Neil.
Well done. Richard McInnes from Strathclyde Fire, Scottish Fire Service, sorry. You'd like to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. As I say, for those that don't know me, my name is Ricky McInnes, and I represent the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service as a local authority liaison officer for North Lanarkshire. I'm here tonight as my colleague David Maguire couldn't make it and sent his apologies, as was noted at the start of the meeting. If you'll bear with me, I'll just run through some of our kind of key data figures. I won't dwell on it, and then I'll move on to some of the community engagement work that we've carried out. So in regards to accidental dwelling fires, over the previous quarter, which was Q1 2021-22, we recorded 6 accidental dwelling fires, which was encouragingly a significant decrease from 14 from the same quarter of the previous year. So that's really quite encouraging. Of them, we only reported 1 accidental dwelling fire casualty. In regards to deliberate fire setting, unfortunately, we've recorded a bit of a rise with 39 deliberate secondary fires in that same reporting period, against 29 of the same year, the same quarter the previous year. Unwanted fire alarm signals are still an issue within the service, and I'll come to that at the end. A wee bit more about that. However, we have reported 36 unwanted fire alarm signals within work premises, hospitals, schools, that type of thing, and compared against 39 in the previous year. So in relation to some of the engagement activities we've carried out during the same reporting period, we've continued to adopt our COVID safety measures, which has allowed us to carry out our home fire safety visits safely. During the reporting period, we carried out 155 home fire safety visits in total, 64 of which were recorded as high risk. This has ensured that we've provided support and delivered our fire safety message to the most vulnerable members of the community. We've been working in partnership with Police Scotland, as Neil mentioned earlier, to help support the local bike marking events. We've attended 6 primary schools across the Cumbernauld Community Board area, and we've used this as a platform to deliver our road safety and water safety awareness message. This has proved to be successful, and we have received great feedback from the schools that have took part. In regards to the kind of summer months, with a rise in staycations anticipated over the summer months, we've been working to promote our summer thematic action plan, which is primarily focused on summer safety and provides guidance around seasonal issues that we face. Been promoting this by carrying out leaflet drops and utilising our social media outlets to give information relating to wildfires, barbecue and camping safety. We've also distributed caravan safety literature to Eden Leisure Village and the World of Wings campsite. There's also been a real focus on water safety and drowning prevention whilst carrying out all our engagement events. I think Neil touched on it as well about school engagement. Obviously, we've not been able to get into schools as easily as we had done in the past. But whilst the restrictions have been in place, we've been delivering our virtual fire skills presentations using the online Teams format. This has allowed us to deliver presentations safely and engage with young people that were attending the school. The presentations were delivered to pupils attending Our Ladies in Greenfalls High School and covered fire safety in the home, road safety, first aid and antisocial behaviour linked to deliberate fire setting. As I said earlier, just a wee bit about the unwanted fire alarm signals. Some of you may be aware that we've got a Time for Change campaign running at the moment. This is it's currently in a period of public consultation, and it's about how we look to respond to unwanted fire alarm signal incidents. To give a wee bit of background to that, each year we attend more than 28,000 false alarms from workplace automatic fire alarms. On average, we send 2 fire engines to each, which equates to around 57,000 unnecessary blue light journeys and 64,000 hours checking alarms, often because they're dusty, broken, or in many cases, someone's just burnt their toast. Only 2% of these calls are actual fires, and most extinguished before we even arrive. We want to use this time to do more for the communities that we serve, and we're now, as I said, we're now in a period of public consultation with individuals, stakeholders and communities across Scotland, asking for their views on the 3 available options. If you are interested in giving your views, then the consultation period runs up from, it's live now, and it's open until Monday the 11th of October. There's 3 options on it, which can be found on our SFRS website. And if you access that, you follow the link and it'll give you the options that we're looking to try and get some feedback on. So, yep, that's pretty much me for community engagement. And if anyone's got any questions on anything that I've covered, I'd be happy to take that now.
That's great. Thanks very much. Councillor Goldie.
Thanks, Chair. It's me again. It's just a suggestion. With the changes in the legislation on fire alarms and heat sensors and property, would Ricky or the team be willing to give a presentation to the board to see what the requirements are? Because I know an awful lot of people aren't aware of them, and it would be worthwhile actually hearing from the professionals what's actually required.
Yep, you're absolutely right, Councillor Goldie. It's something that we're working on just now. Obviously, the adverts have just went live on TV, and it's, people are now starting to think, this is coming quicker than I expected. And we are actively getting questions being emailed into us, messages to give people callbacks, etc., etc. As you can imagine, it's not easy for us to meet that demand. And I take your point on, this is a perfect forum, given the fact that it's on YouTube and people can access it, that we may be able to give some sort of, presentation around that to the board, which can be then passed on to the wider community. So yes, I don't see any problem with that. However, there is a lot of information on the Scottish Government website that tells you, and there's some information on the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service website, and I think probably in the first instance we'd be directing people to them to then read the guidance and can educate themselves, and then perhaps come to us should they have any further questions, which may kind of ease the demand on us guys. But yeah, I take your point on board. This may just be the perfect forum in which to do that.
That's great, thank you. And I think in terms of the consultations that you mentioned, I think Christine's already emailed us out a couple of different items on that, so I think people should have those in their inboxes anyway.
Fantastic.
Any other points? Any other? Nope.
I'll just say before
Suzanne.
Okay, sorry. The paper that we've created, I've done last minute because I'm obviously sitting in for my colleague. However, should anyone want to see the full document, I can send that out along with the minutes of the meetings, etc., any action logs that come back off the back of the meeting, if anyone would like that.
That's Smashing. People can let you know through the chat bar.
Suzanne, sorry, it was just one point
Sure.
from me.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks. Just related to Willie's point there, it was specifically about what community support or what support is available to help people comply with the new legislation, because it could easily be £200, £250 plus for the smoke and heat alarms to comply with the legislation. So perhaps if Ricky or his colleague could bring that information to the next meeting, that would be useful for us to circulate.
Yeah, I mean, this is Scottish Government led, so you know any support there to provide smoke alarms to the community should come from the Scottish Government through the councils, I would imagine, local authorities. We have a criteria for fitting them free of charge, but that criteria has to be met, and it's not available to everyone, unfortunately, because obviously we're working on a budget there. But I think any support to provide these to people who maybe, you know, that you mentioned they are expensive, it should be coming from Scottish Government, as it is Scottish Government led.
Thank you for that. Okay, anything else? Nope. Okay, any other business? No. Okay. That concludes the business of
Suzanne.
Yep.
Sorry, I should have come in earlier there. I was sleeping, I think. We have a Cumbernauld Community Forum face-to-face meeting tomorrow night in Cornerstone. It will be COVID restrictions applied at 7 o'clock in Cornerstone. And just one other thing, the Crime Prevention Panel Community Forum will be working in partnership with the police for the second phase of the bike marking in the schools, in the primary schools.
That's great, thanks, Billy.
Which we are funding.
Great stuff. That's brilliant, thank you for that. Okay, any other points? Lisa?
Hello there. It was just a quick question about the subgroups. I don't know if I've missed something. I don't know if the subgroups have started meeting or anything like that. So just if anyone could update us.
Who wants to take that, Christine or Matt?
Easy answer. I'll take it, Chair, if it's okay. Lisa, no is the easy answer to that. But watch this page. I think I would say okay. So I think I'll be starting to, what's the expression, ramp up soon.
Thanks, Colin.
No bother.
Thank you. Christine, have we got a date for the next meeting, or will that just be advised?
Sorry, Chair, I think is it not in the bottom of your agenda? Have I not added that one on for you?
No, sorry.
Right, no, give me 2 wee seconds, I'll just check that for you then. So the next meeting of the Cumbernauld Board will be the 23rd of November 2021, and it will be the same time, 6:30 to 8:30.
Smashing, thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll bring this meeting to a close. Thanks very much to all those stalwarts who've lasted to the end of this meeting, and we'll see you again in November.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Chair. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.